here's a brief summary of some of the latest developments this week in Palestine. Israel has bombarded areas across Gaza this week, killing nearly 650 Palestinians and injuring approximately 2,200 between July 9th and July 16th, according to records from the Ministry of Health in Gaza, in airstrikes, quadcopter attacks, and by live fire at the so-called aid distribution sites. On Tuesday, July 15th, Israel attacked the beach or Shati refugee camp west of Gaza City, killing 23 people, and attacked the Tufah neighborhood of Gaza City, killing 14 people, including children, all members of the same family. One woman, Hala Arafat, was recorded live on video pleading for rescue workers to save her, her children, and the rest of her family. The Civil Defense Corps attempted to rescue those trapped under the rubble, but were prevented from doing so by the Israeli army. Mahmoud Basal, the spokesperson for the civil defense, said that, quote, "We tried as hard as we could to coordinate entry so that we could reach the place before she passed away, but all coordination efforts failed. The next day, we were allowed to enter the area. Our crews entered to find the woman deceased." Basal added that they had still been receiving phone calls from people still stuck under the rubble of their homes who had managed to stay alive, but they are presumed dead. Quote, "It is reasonable to assume that the human conscience, until this moment, does not move in the face of such events taking place in the Gaza Strip," Basal stated. He said in another video report that Israel has been brutally attacking areas specifically across the northern Gaza Strip in the last 2 weeks, including in Gaza City and Jabalia. He noted that hundreds of buildings have been destroyed in this current series of attacks, while heavily populated homes are being leveled to the ground in airstrikes. He said approximately 300 Palestinians are still stuck under the rubble, with no reprieve in the intensity of the attacks. These strikes coincide with Israel's new forced evacuation orders directed at areas of northern Gaza. The United Nations Humanitarian Office said on Tuesday that Israel is ordering people to relocate to Al-Mawasi, an already overcrowded area lacking the basics for survival. The newest displacement order covers approximately 9 square kilometers, encompassing 11 neighborhoods across Gaza and North Gaza governorates, where at least 120,000 people are estimated to be residing, the UN added. Israel targeted and killed 7 children and 4 adults in a drone strike while crowds of people attempted to retrieve clean water from a water truck on Sunday, July 13th. Water shortages in Gaza have worsened sharply in recent weeks, with fuel shortages causing desalination and sanitation facilities to close, making people dependent on collection centers where they can fill up their plastic containers, Reuters reported. That massacre was just one of several across Gaza in a 24-hour period on July 12th and 13th. The Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza reported that 139 bodies had been brought to hospitals within that 24-hour period. On Monday, July 14th, Israel bombed another water vehicle in central Gaza, killing the driver. Assem al-Nabih, the spokesperson for the Gaza municipality, who will join us in a few minutes, wrote for the Electronic Intifada this week that, quote, "During the past 21 months of Israeli aggression, 75% of Gaza City's wells were destroyed by Israel, while the remaining wells have stopped or are partially operating for limited hours that are insufficient to meet the needs of the population." He adds that, quote, "In some neighborhoods, residents go days without access to clean water. Desperate families collect water from agricultural wells or polluted rainwater runoff. Children bathe in contaminated water, leaving them vulnerable to skin diseases and bacterial infections. Sewage floods streets, seeps into homes, tents, and makeshift shelter areas for displaced people, or drains into the sea." That's from Assem al-Nabih's feature, A Life Without Fuel. We'll have more from Assem live with us in a few minutes. Meanwhile, the United Nations Global Protection Cluster stated that over the last 21 months of this genocide, more than 134,000 Palestinians, including more than 40,000 children, have new war-related injuries. 25% are estimated to have new disabilities requiring acute and ongoing rehabilitation, and over 35,000 people are believed to have significant hearing damage due to explosions. And an average 10 children per day lose one or both of their legs, a grim statistic that has held steady since January 2024, as this press release from Save the Children shows, that was issued just 3 months into the genocide. The United Nations has said that Gaza has the highest number of child amputees per capita than anywhere else in the world. Palestinians continue to be killed and injured trying to obtain meager amounts of food aid at so-called distribution sites run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, or GHF, a joint U.S.-Israeli private mercenary company. Approximately 900 people have now been killed and more than 5,700 injured since the GHF began its operations under the guise of distributing aid just 7 weeks ago in late May. The Gaza government media office said that at least 21 Palestinians were killed by direct gunfire, suffocation, and a stampede at a GHF site in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza on Wednesday, July 16th. The mercenary organization told hundreds of thousands of Palestinians to go to an aid center it called SDS-3, the media office said. Quote, it then proceeded to close the iron gates after gathering thousands of starving people in narrow passageways deliberately designed to suffocate them. Employees of the criminal organization and Israeli occupation soldiers sprayed pepper gas and opened direct fire on the starving people who responded to their call for aid, leading to mass suffocation and the immediate death of a large number of people at the crime scene. Dozens were injured as a result of a stampede in a closed, unexited space designed to kill, the Gaza government media office stated. Testimonies of 14 eyewitnesses who were present at the scene confirm the consistent account of the crime committed against the starving people. The government media office also previously documented the direct shooting of starving people by members of the criminal American organization, and visual footage was previously published proving these bloody incidents, the media office stated. Reporter Samer al-Boji recorded family members who mourned over the bodies of their loved ones who were killed at the so-called aid site on Wednesday. Children, these are children, screams one man. What is their fault in this? To suffocate to death at the aid sites? We want to shut these aid sites down. We don't want to eat. We'd rather eat dirt. The bastards should end this and go away, another man says. There is no media to film what's happening at those sites.
أطفال هذولا ايش تعرفهم؟ اموتوا خليكم المساعدات، بدنا نسكر المساعدات، بدناش ناكل، بدنا ناكل اضطراب بدنا ناكل.
الخبر انه اول شيء مخلوق بعدين نزلنا انه مستشفى. يا رب الله يا مرة.
ايوه وقف عندك وقف
يا رب.
يحلون اولاد الحرام ويفكونا.
حرام عليك والله حرام عليك والله حرام عليك.
On Saturday, July 12th, at a distribution site in Rafah, video footage captured Israeli forces firing rapidly into an enormous crowd of Palestinians. Some were forced to crawl across the dirt on their bellies to avoid being shot. Footage captured by eyewitnesses also showed an American soldier firing what Euromed Human Rights Monitor says was a stun grenade on the crowd. An eyewitness told Euromed that, quote, there is a large pit just before the entrance to the aid point, where people usually hide before the gates open. Today, we were surprised to see 3 sand mounds facing the pit. Once the pit was packed with people, 3 tanks climbed onto the mounds, each carrying heavy machine guns and about 30 heavily armed soldiers and snipers. They fired sound bombs above the crowd. Anyone who tried to leave the pit was shot at directly. More than 30 Palestinians were killed in that massacre on July 12th. That was a clip from Euromed Human Rights Monitor. Mondo Weiss's Tarek Hajjaj reported on the July 12th massacre as well. He spoke to a survivor of the attack, Ahmed Haddad, who spoke from his hospital bed to recount the day's events. Quote, "We go there because we want to eat," he said in a video testimony for Mondo Weiss, speaking through labored breaths while letting out painful cries between sentences. "We know the danger there, but hunger is harsh. There's no other choice. The only food we can get is through the aid that they throw at us," he continued. "But when we went today, the soldiers came out with their guns and the tanks came out with their machine guns. We saw the soldiers from close range aiming their weapons at our heads and sniping us like birds, as if we were worthless, as if they were amusing themselves with our blood and killing us by the dozens." Haddad says that Israeli tanks fired randomly at the crowds while soldiers watched whoever stood up and sniped them in the head. Quote, "We lay on the ground, fearing the bullets and trying to save our lives," he says. "But the soldiers were waiting for us, lying in ambush. Whoever stood up fell back dead." That's from Mondo Weiss on July 12th. Those who managed to obtain a box of aid from the deadly U.S.-Israeli mercenary firm are saying that the items inside the boxes are still not enough to feed hungry families. Al Jazeera's reporter Hind Khudari said on Monday, July 14th, that, quote, "The only things the GHF is distributing are flour, rice, oil, and a couple of other food items, which are not enough for Palestinian families. There are no shelter items, no medications, and no clean water. Trucks are not entering Gaza, and Palestinians are waiting every day for any news about more trucks. Whatever is coming in is not enough," she said. The United Nations Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, meanwhile, stated that 1 in 10 children they are seeing at their clinics is suffering from malnutrition. The condition was unheard of in the enclave before October 2023, but it more than doubled in children under 5 between March and June amid the near-total Israeli siege, the UN said. The agency's senior emergency officer, Louise Wateridge, said on Wednesday that, quote, "It's becoming more and more difficult for us to continue providing services. At least 188 UNRWA installations, over half of all of our installations in the Gaza Strip, are located within the Israeli militarized zone, under displacement orders or where these overlap," she added. Nearly 60% of essential medical supplies are now out of stock, according to the UN agency. Quote, "Children are dying before our eyes because we do not have the medical supplies or sustained food to treat them," UNRWA stated. And this week, Israel issued an order threatening starving Palestinians who try to fish in the sea to feed themselves. The army declared on July 12th that it had imposed restrictions along the Gaza shore and was preventing all entry into the sea. The army said that it will, quote, "deal with any violation of these restrictions." Israel continues to target healthcare workers as hospitals and ambulance services remain at the brink of total collapse. The general director of civil defense in the Gaza Strip announced on July 10th that all of its vehicles have had to stop providing rescue services to people in Gaza City and northern Gaza areas as they all need repairs and are completely out of spare parts, even for basic maintenance. One fire engine is all that remains to serve the entire area of northern Gaza. In southern Gaza, the civil defense says that 3 out of 6 of their fire engines and 4 out of 6 ambulances are also completely out of service. This week, Israeli forces assassinated Dr. Ahmed Atalla Hamed Kandil, one of the most prominent physicians in Gaza and an experienced general surgery consultant, in a drone strike that targeted him on his way home from working at the Al-Ahli Arab Hospital in Gaza City. Dr. Hussam Hamouda, a colleague of Dr. Kandil, wrote on social media that, quote, "Today, Gaza has lost one of its medical pillars, a man who was not only a surgeon, but a living conscience who carried the burden of his nation and its people." And this week, Dr. Hussam Abu Safia's lawyer, who just visited him in Israel's notorious Ofer prison, warned that the doctor's health is deteriorating after more than 6 months in detention and enduring brutal beatings by Israeli jailers. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐜, Dr. Abu Safia's lawyer, stated that the pediatrician and director of Kamal Adwan Hospital, who was abducted by Israeli forces in late December, has lost more than 80 pounds in detention. Quote, "Dr. Hussam Abu Safia is not well," she stated. "My last visit to him was days ago, July 9th. He lost more than 40 kilograms of his weight, more than a third." Qassem added that he was beaten by Israeli prison guards on June 24th, the day after the war with Iran ended. His cell was raided by the guards and he was brutally beaten in the ribs, she said, and suffered severe bruises on his face, head, back, and neck as well, and the beating lasted about 30 minutes. Qassem said that Dr. Abu Safia demanded medical treatment, but his request was rejected. He suffers from an irregular heartbeat, which is not being treated, and his eyeglasses were recently broken. She added that Dr. Abu Safia, quote, "is still wearing winter clothes and is enduring starvation, torture, isolation, and destruction, remaining underground without any exposure to the sunlight. Dr. Hussam Abu Safia and the rest of the Palestinian prisoners are not okay," she said. Turning to the occupied West Bank, Israeli settlers continue to escalate their attacks on Palestinians. On July 11th, 20-year-old Saifullah Musallet was beaten to death by a mob of Jewish settlers in Sinjil near Ramallah. The settlers also shot and killed another young man, 23-year-old Mohammed al-Shalabi, in the attack. Musallet's family said that the settlers surrounded him for 3 hours during the assault and attacked medics who were attempting to reach him. The American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee said the U.S., quote, "must stop treating Palestinian American lives as expendable." Israeli settlers lynched 20-year-old Palestinian American Saifullah Musallet, while U.S. officials stayed silent, the advocacy group said in a statement. Saifullah was born and raised in Florida. He was visiting family for the summer in the West Bank when settlers beat him to death while he protested illegal land seizures. Musallet's cousin stated that, quote, "we are devastated that our beloved Saifullah Musallet, nicknamed Saif, was brutally beaten to death on our family's land by illegal Israeli settlers who were attempting to steal it. After the mob of Israeli settlers cleared hours later, Saif's younger brother rushed to carry him to the ambulance. Saif was killed and died before reaching the hospital." Other settler pogroms were reported elsewhere in the West Bank this week. On Monday, Israeli settlers and soldiers launched several more attacks, including in Bethlehem, where settlers uprooted hundreds of olive trees in the Al-Maniya village southeast of the city, and Israeli authorities demolished a 4-story residential building, Al Jazeera reported. The head of the Al-Maniya Village Council told Wafa news agency that a group of settlers stormed the center of Al-Maniya, set up 4 tents, and uprooted approximately 1,500 olive tree saplings belonging to Palestinian families. On July 11th, Israeli settlers attacked and injured a 3-year-old Palestinian girl, throwing rocks at her head during a raid on Sayr village in the Hebron area. The settlers attacked residents as they gathered to celebrate a wedding. The United Nations reported that between July 8th and 14th, its humanitarian office documented at least 30 Israeli settler attacks against Palestinians that resulted in casualties, property damage, or both. These attacks led to the death of 2 Palestinians, one by settlers and one where it is unknown if he was killed by settlers or Israeli forces. Another 92 Palestinians were also injured during these attacks, 14 by Israeli forces and 78 by Israeli settlers. We've published many features on the Electronic Intifada in the last week, but we wanted to highlight A Book Stall in the Rubble Nourishes Hungry Minds by Esra Abu Kamar, writing from Gaza. Amid Gaza's devastation, signs of life reappear in the most unexpected places, Esra writes. Quote, 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐜, read your book, is a small bookstall that opened in late April right in the middle of the destruction in the Nuseirat refugee camp in the central Gaza Strip. Rows of Arabic and English novels, poetry, philosophy, faith, and self-help books are laid out neatly on makeshift wooden planks on the pavement, their colorful covers defying the gray dust of destruction around them. Surrounded by buildings partially or fully collapsed and debris from old and recent airstrikes, the books and their subject matter seem incongruous, with titles that speak of hope, of love, loss, and resistance, as if reflecting the emotions etched into the faces of passers-by. The stall invites them to pause, read, and reconnect with a part of life that genocide has tried to erase. Books take their place amidst the ruins. Hassan al-Qatrawi, a Palestinian novelist, academic, and a regular customer at the stall, wrote on his social media account. They, the Israelis, destroy us from the outside, and we build ourselves from within. The hunger for food is temporary, but the hunger for reading is eternal. Behind the modest bookstall are 2 young brothers from the Nuseirat camp. Salah and Abdullah Sarsour lost their home during the genocide and were displaced to a nearby school where they still shelter. They developed a passion for books at a young age, and during the now 20-month-long Israeli war of extermination in Gaza, they have not stopped reading despite all the hardships. Although accessing books is difficult, Abdullah insisted on taking long, difficult trips to northern Gaza, risking his safety and spending a lot of money on transportation to find a good read in bookshops like the iconic Samir Mansour bookshop in Gaza City. Those are excerpts from A Book Stall in the Rubble Nourishes Hungry Minds by Esra Abu Kamar, writing from Gaza on electronicintifada.net. And finally, as we always do, we wanted to highlight people expressing joy, determination, and resilience across Palestine and around the world. In Gaza, a teacher named Saja sets aside a few moments for a popular social media trend, giving the phone to a student who passes the phone to another. The Gaza Great Minds Foundation, which supports education initiatives in Gaza, says, quote, "One phone, countless smiles, endless love. This is what true community looks like, seeing each other's gifts and lifting them up."
أكثر طالب شاطر عندي بالصف. ضاعت الجوال لأفضل صديق عندي بالصف. ضاعت الجوال لأشهر طالب بالصف. ضاعت الجوال لأكثر واحد فرفوش بالصف. ضاعت الجوال لأكثر واحد طويل بالصف. ضاعت الجوال لأكثر واحد ضحك بالصف. ضاعت الجوال لأكثر صاحب بالصف. نعطيه أنشط واحد في الصف.
That's from the Gaza Great Minds Foundation, and that's it for the news roundup. As always, go to electronicintifada.net for much more, especially to read our new features by our brave writers in Gaza.